Hey friends, I'm sorry I can't be with you today, but I wanted to introduce what we're going to do and then read the story to you. So I don't know if you see I have company today. There's my cat Flurry in the background. You might see her flipping around that chair here shortly because she is all sorts of wound up tonight. So I know we've been working really hard on our career education things that we have to get done. And since we are all pretty much done with that first part of it, I thought we would take a little break from that. And we'll talk about what we're going to do for the second part of that when I see you guys next week, because actually it's something that you can do at home. And I'll fill you in on that when we get together next week. But one of the things I like to do at this point in third grade is I like to do an author study. And basically what an author study is, it's like a fancy way of saying that you're going to read a bunch of books by the same author. And one of the authors that I love for third grade is the author Chris Van Allsburg. And I know you're probably thinking, Mrs. Johnson, I have no idea who that is, but actually you probably do. Because some of the books that I'm going to share with you and show you, you will realize right away, oh my goodness, yes, I've heard that book or I've seen that movie, because a couple of his books have been made into movies. So one of the things I like so much about Chris Van Allsburg's stories is that he tells a really interesting story. And a lot of times you think you know what's going to happen at the end until you get there. And then at the end, there's this weird little twist at the end that you didn't actually see coming. And it just makes for a really interesting story. And the second thing I like so much about Chris Van Allsburg is that he's not just an author, he's also an illustrator. And he draws some really amazing, detailed, just fabulous illustrations. And some of them are in black and white, some of them are in color. But he's an author who has actually won the Caldecott Medal, which, if you're familiar with that, and I know we have talked about that every once in a while, but it is a medal that is given to a book each year by a group of librarians for the best illustrations out of all the books published in that year. So it is quite an honor because, there's hundreds of thousands of children's books published every year. And for, your book to be picked as the one that has the very best illustrations is really pretty amazing. So if you think way back to if you were with me in first grade, we did read one of Chris Van Allsburg's books, and I'll show it to you right now. We read The Z Was Zapped. And remember, it's our alphabet story when we were talking about, where are things in the library and using alphabetical order to find those things. So we did take a look at The Z Was Zapped. And if you think about that, you might remember that in the story, we saw a picture of each letter of the alphabet. And then what you had to do was guess what was happening to it. And it had to be a word using the same letter. So the A, and all the rocks are falling. So we know the A was in an avalanche. And that was one that we enjoyed in first grade. And we're going to come back to that here in just a minute because there's something I want to show you about that. But I think the book that is always the one that everybody realizes, oh my gosh, I do know who Chris Van Allsburg is when I show this one, The Polar Express. Chris Van Allsburg is the author and the illustrator of The Polar Express. So if you've seen the book or seen the movie, you are familiar with Chris Van Allsburg. You also might be familiar with this book, Jumanji. And I know that has been made into a series of movies now, but that original story started with our author, Chris Van Allsburg. And the other book that I know has been made into a movie is kind of the follow-up to Jumanji, is Zathura. And kind of when we end one book, it kind of leads right into the next one. Now, the other thing that I like about Chris Van Allsburg's books is I like Fritz. Now, Fritz is a dog, and Fritz is actually a dog that Chris Van Allsburg started drawing into all of his books and putting in his illustrations and sometimes hiding them someplace because it was actually a dog that one of the members of his family had. So one of the books, and he won the Caldecott Honor Medal for this one. I don't know if you can see it with the lighting in my office, but there's a silver medal on here. If I can get it to the point where it's not like glowing at it. Let's turn this light off. If that makes it any better, you might be able to see it a little bit. But in this book is all about Fritz. And when I show you show Fritz to you, you might realize that it kind of makes you think of a dog that you might see on some TV commercials. So the little dog on the bridge with a little fur patch on his eye is Fritz. And I don't know about you, but he kind of reminds me of the Target dog. So let's find a couple good illustrations of him. There's a good one on this page where he's sitting on Miss Hester's porch with Alan. So usually in the stories, in this book, he's Fritz the dog the whole way through the story. But in other books that Chris Van Allsburg has written and illustrated, he's actually, he can be a lot of different things. So if you think back to when you may have listened to the book Polar Express or watched the movie, because it was in the movie, if you look at, it was right as the train was pulling up to Peter's house, and he looks out the window to see what that noise is. On his bedpost, let me put it so you can see it right there. Okay, and right there is Fritz the dog. So instead of actually being the dog, he's kind of disguised him as a hand puppet in that book. And in the Z Was Zapped, we don't get to see the whole dog, but I bet you know who that snout belongs to that bit the bee badly. So the book that we're going to read today is we're going to start with one of the ones that is always the most popular one out of all of his books, and that is Jumanji. So I'm going to pause this right now and switch over to my other camera so we can make sure we can enjoy all of the illustrations.